you're very passionate about role-playing games. You really love the whole thing. Do you think that the world needs stories as they had like
This is
50?
something that I've been talking about for a little while, and I'm going to describe it to you in the way that I think it has been easiest to teach, which
Mm-hmm.
is that for most of us and most of the history that we're familiar with, stories have been very transitive. The creator is over here,
Yep.
and the production process is over here. And we don't get it, see it, use it, taste it, feel it, or know it until after it has been through a creative production process and a
Yes.
distribution and commerce process. That's when we get it.
Mm-hmm.
And we experience it as consumer and as audience. That's pretty much the case. Now, what kind of folk story creation and production do we have? And we do have some. But you will notice that it has no social credit or traction at all. Say you play football.
Why?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But say you play football, and the only time you play football is with your friends around the corner,
Yeah.
you know? And you have a great time, you get some exercise, you have friends, and somebody at work says what you do for fun, and you say, "Oh, I have this neighborhood football game that I play."
But you're not making money.
No, no, but you see, for football, that's okay.
Yeah.
For football, that's okay. Folk sport is everybody knows about that. It's fine. And many other things like that too. Folk versions of many form music is okay, right?
Yeah.
I play the guitar. I'm not in a band. I don't do it for money. I like playing the guitar. If you were over from my house for dinner, I'll pull out the guitar and we'll sing a couple of songs. Everybody likes it,
Of course.
right? It's folk music, not folk music as a commercial genre, but folk
Yeah.
as a cultural, as a cultural.
Something that comes out authentically out of the people who are doing it.
Right. But I'm talking about folk activity, which is valued as culture. We do have folk story creation. Fanfic is probably the most obvious.
Yep.
But it is not regarded in the same way. It does not have that cultural role of recognition, value, respect, and yeah, people you don't have pride of place even in yourself
I agree.
because you and a few other people make some stories together.
Indeed.
Right.
That's
And this is
that's
a very important point, and I think it is something that if it ever existed as part of human culture, and I'm reasonably certain it must have,
I
right?
think that is the root of religion to an
Right.
extent.
Right. I agree.
So,
Yeah, maybe religion is the way that we primarily do that. But the thing, and that's arguable, but the thing that I am pointing out is that religion, if you do that via religion, it tends to become establishmentarian, right? There is
mhm.
an institution that eventually it becomes part of and it represents. Whereas I am talking about something again much more like folk music.
Fix.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
the equivalent of the neighborhood football game and the casual guitarist, right?
Hmm.
And remember, I'm not talking about solo activity. Both of those are group activities,
Yep.
right? That's what I really want to focus on, that as a feature of what I mean by story. I'm not talking about you writing stories and putting them in a drawer. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the activity,
There.
right? And so, therefore, role playing as a medium is a distinctive and powerful thing, and it has the potential for authentic contact among people that our other modes of story making tends to lose. And so that to me is where my passion lies.
I see.
That's
I
that's
see.
what I'm that's what I am
Sense.
promoting. So
Yeah, I see that. I mean, that's why you. This is how you distributed Sorcerer, after all, right?
mhm.
Against the establishment, in a way.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, the fact is that the establishment was broken and ridiculous at the time has something to do with it. Um, but then again, I have the kind of personality which is going to perceive the problems in any kind of institution more than you know more than its value. I struggled with that as a university professor for my and a graduate student and professor for my whole career. So
All right. So I will ask you two more questions, and
Shahida,
we. Hmm?
Shahida,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and we will have to arrange another session, I believe, because I'm having the time of my life right now
Oh,
talking with
good.
you,
I'm
and
really enjoying myself too. It's a nice time talking with you. So,
there are still questions that I have to ask, and we don't have time. We're almost at the 2 hours mark.
what are the questions about Shahida?
Well, first of all, it's in Italian. First of all, we don't know what this game is about because we are all Greeks and none of us speak English, speak Italian. So, what is it about? And
Well, first of all, the Italian translation is just a translation. It was published originally in English. Um,
exists in English.
yeah, you can. Yeah, Shahida the Italian. There are translations of Troll Babe, Spiona, Shahida, and Slay with Me in Italian.
Is it available somewhere?
The English ones, yes, I you can buy a PDF from me very easily.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think that this made some people from the group very happy.
Okay. Well, I will send you the link. But the but anyway, the point is that you are saying what is the story behind it, and it's really the story of Spione,
Mhm.
in which I decided to try to write a book about political history and American identity, and then to have one small piece of the book be a game that would be
Mhm.
very confrontational and intimate.
Yeah.
There were several. This is an example of how some design ideas began, and then they eventually gained identity as a design ideology for these games. One was that, unlike many games, I wanted them to improve the more people who played. More people, more people, more people means the game gets easier, not harder. So that's one design idea. Another design idea was that they would always only use one single deck of cards and nothing, no other strange instruments.
Yeah.
So something that everybody has. Um, and the third was that it would have uh, the, uh, the constant contributing factors that you would have like playing music together. It was the feeling of play should be like being in a session where we are playing instruments. So with those in mind, I wrote Spiona very involuntarily and with a great deal of passion and educating myself in the material to an extent that is really insane. I read easily 1,000 books in the first year that I was working on Spiona.
How
Um,
fast can you read?
I
How
I don't like to
are
talk
reader?
about it because it makes people unhappy. Um,
Do
I
you have a
I
secret, a trick?
no. I read in a freakish way that is not. I know other people have it. I've seen other people who have it, but it's not. But it's a freakish act. So I can't really. I mean, but then
That's a
everybody gets mad. Geeks get mad when you talk about things like the speed of calculation and the speed of reading because that's status for them. And so I don't like to talk about it. They get angry. Um,
yeah.
but the point is, yes, I absorb written material very quickly. So, so Spiona for me was very transformative. It's also very important that I had been politically very quiet since a certain event in the early 1990s.
Oh,
And that, well, the certain event in the early 1990s was the pardoning of a very horrifying criminal in the United States. He was a former officer of the CIA who had been a member of the White House staff. His name was Oliver North.
I
And
have heard.
mhm, yeah, and the day he was pardoned, I stopped talking about politics to anybody because I realized there is no victory. The illusion that there are different political interests in the United States and that there is the possibility for certain kinds of political interests to actually succeed is gone. It's gone. And I was right. It was dead. So that changed around 2004 due to events at my school and in my life. And I found that reading certain things about the Cold War at the time really clarified to me certain things I needed to say and to understand. And so that's when I wrote Spione. Spione was one of the most involuntary things I have ever done or experienced. And
Yes.
then there are other aspects to that story as well, especially the way that I wanted to promote it, but that makes me sad to talk about. Then Shahida was an even more terrifying moment when I realized that I could do it again. And
Yeah.
it was related in this case more to direct political work on my part because I became very active on campus with student groups. And so the reading that I was doing was often tightly related to it. And so therefore, I became very invested in the moment to moment politics of the day at the same time that I was working on these histories. And so it became Shahida was easier than Spione because I had been through the same process once. You should know there are 5 games that I have actually done or worked on of this kind, not 2.
Sort of.
No, no, no. 5 games in this series that are based on a political book with a lot of history and explanation, and then a small game in the back that meets these same. They're different games, but they meet the same aesthetic standards. So one is set in Berlin, Spione. It's published. One is set in Lebanon, in Beirut, and that's Shahida, and it's published. One of them is set in Africa, specifically the Congo, and actually south of there, Zimbabwe and Rhodesia, and it involves Cubans in Africa.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the fourth one is set in Cambodia and Vietnam, and the characters are not Americans.
That's
And then the fifth one is set in the 1970s in the United States. And
mhm.
so I have notes for all of them, and I have read extensive books for all of them. And the fact that Spione and Shahida have been complete failures for me commercially and culturally means that I will never finish them. The one that I decided to develop was the one that I saved for last, which was the one called America, and with K's, and I have developed that into usable form, and I play test that fairly frequently. So, but it is not being developed as a book because
to
they
buy.
will take so much effort and so much writing, and I do not have the support. I do not have any faith whatsoever that they will be internalized and played and appreciated to justify the effort.
I understand. I see. I see.
But yes, so Shahida is best understood as a piece of this 5-part transformative experience of mine in terms of engaging deeper with the history of my life and many other people's lives.
I see. That was quite illuminating, indeed.
Tell me though, what is that last question?
The last question is about champions now. It's from the same person who asked about Shahida. Uh, what was the idea behind Champions Now? I know you were an early Champions fan, but why did you choose to make a revision of the original rules? What were your design goals behind it? What, in your opinion, makes Champions Now different from other superhero RPGs? what feedback are you getting now that it's out on the public?
All of those will have to wait. Fortunately, the development of the ideas is very, very, very obvious at my comics blog. So
Mhm.
maybe the best thing to do is to refer you to that blog, or this person to that blog,
Yeah.
and then they will get a lot of the answers that they want because they can actually see them happen. And then they can ask more specific questions that mean I don't have to give this long,
Okay.
narrative. Um,
Okay.
but so we can do that, I think, later.
I think that we should wrap it up at this point, and we should absolutely have a
I
second
agree
meeting.
because you see, I need to interview you back.
Oh no. Okay.
I need to ask you about your play experiences. I need to ask you about the culture of play where you are. And I need
Mhm.
to ask you a little more about why why aren't we seeing Greek authored role playing games available for everybody?
Yeah.
And because I know they're in your backpacks, they're on your hard drives. Don't lie. So the
They are.
question is, where are they? I
They
want to
are
see
few.
those. And
Yeah.
so I will ask you a lot of interesting questions the next time too. So
Okay. That sounds great,
mhm.
and it's also a fair trade. An interview for an interview.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll get in
I thank
contact about the
you.
videos and everything.
Yeah, this has been one of the most amazing experiences I have had
Oh
through
no.
my interest in role-playing games. This opportunity to have such an in-depth conversation with you that was really interesting is something that I will speak about very fondly in
Right.
the Facebook group in the
Thank you. I
future.
appreciate that. And I enjoyed it too. And I especially would like to say that we remember what I said about the separation between producer and audience and how
Yeah,
much I dislike it. I don't consider myself to be in that role. So
yeah,
therefore, I look forward to more direct and egalitarian contact with you and the people that you know.
perfect,
All
perfect.
right. I will see you later.
All right,
Right.
bye bye.